Now let's continue on with the concept of daily debridement and decontamination. And now we're going to be talking about decontamination of the maxillary sinus. Now, what are the indications for this? In my opinion, the first indication is to alleviate morning stuffiness. Many of us wake up in the morning with our noses somewhat stuffy, but by taking this saline solution and flushing the sinuses with that, we can get rid of that morning stuffiness. Another indication is the treatment for seasonal allergies such as hay fever. And again, this is done with a saline rinse. A third indication is to nip a sinus infection in the bud. Fourth, we all know that when we fly, that we're rebreathing the airline air, and this is contaminated. And I think after getting off the airline, when you get to your hotel room or whatever, taking this solution and irrigating your sinuses with it may prevent the development of some type of sinusitis. And how is this done? Well, by using a nebulizer. And here's a picture of a nebulizer. And I think the one that I ordered online, I paid like $6 for. There are two solutions that you can use. First of all, I've mentioned the saline solution, which you can order single packets online, and they come in packets of 100. However, if you actually have some type of sinus infection, I would suggest that you use a sodium hypochlorite solution. Now remember, the standard way that we mix the sodium hypochlorite is 1 teaspoon to 32 ounces of water or to a quart of water. And if you actually have a sinus infection, using that sodium hypochlorite solution in your nebulizer several times a day may shorten the time that you have the sinus infection and actually help you get over it. Now let me show you how I decontaminate my sinuses. The first thing that we want to do is to look at the equipment. Well, the equipment is very simple. This is the nebulizer, and this is the little packet that I mentioned, which is a standard dose of saline solution that you want to put in your nebulizer. And I mentioned that you can order online packets of 100 of these little packets. First thing we're going to do, we have filled this up with water. We tear the top off of this and then just turn it upside down and put that in the solution. Then we put the top back on, put our finger over the hole, shake it up good, and ideally I would wait 5 minutes or so to be sure everything is dissolved before doing it. But for the sake of this video, I'm going to go ahead and start. The only other thing that you need, and this is a washcloth, you can use a tissue, whatever. I just happen to like a washcloth better. And what we're going to do is we're going to flush each nostril with a little of this solution. And when we do it, I find that it gets well into the sinus and perhaps a little bit up into the eustachian tube. So I will get a little bit of drainage 4 or 5 minutes later, maybe a little bit longer, as I get drainage from the eustachian tube. And it really does unstop your nose if it's stuffy in the morning, as it is in my particular case. So the first thing that I'm going to do is put this to my nose, and you'll notice that I'm going to snort it up my nose, if you will. Leave it there for a second or two and simply blow your nose as I have done there. Some of it will come out of the back of your mouth. But now you'll see how clear my sinuses are. So that's basically all you do in using that. Now let's talk a second or two about when to use the sodium hypochlorite and when to use the saline. For routine things, stuffiness, hay fever, things like that, I think using just the saline solution that we've talked about is fine. However, if you actually have a sinus infection or a chest cold or whatever, I think using the sodium hypochlorite solution, 1 teaspoon to a quart of water, which is 32 ounces. And if I had a sinus infection, I would probably do that 2 or 3 times a day. And as I said earlier, I think that would shorten the time that you have the sinus infection, perhaps nip it in the bud. And if you're anticipating getting started as early as possible, I think would make a real impact. So hopefully this segment on decontaminating and disinfecting the maxillary sinus is one of the components that we need to add to the total concept that we've been talking about. Enjoy.